And the children were rumbling in her innards. V'tomer came lomase anochi, v'teich litrus is Hashem. So Rashi explains that she was having all this agitation, and we explained yesterday, Yaakov and Esav, each one representing good and evil. So there was this uncontentious situation, and they couldn't coexist. That was the rumbling. The Tomer came Godul Tzara Ibor. The pain from the pregnancy was unbearable. Lomazel Nochi. If this is the end result of what I'm going through, why did I initially desire and pray to become pregnant? But Lidrash says Hashem, Sheyaglo Mate Besofa. She went to the basement of Shem because Shem was there, that he should tell her what's going to be the end result. What is this all about? This point is an important point. I'm not sure if Mark was on originally. I mean, seemingly, the way people speak about Yitzchak in a level of almost the ultimate level of disrespect. Whenever Hashem introduces himself, it's Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. So God says, where's my place in this world? As it says in Chazal, Heini Nemerkova. Avraham was the location for the Shechina, Yitzchak was the location of the Shechina, and Yaakov was the location of the Shechina. Yitzchak was so pure, he was chosen to be the Olet Tvima, the unblemished offering. He was the object. And yet, the way he's presented in the Torah, it seems to be, he doesn't have a clue what's going on. Doesn't understand who Esav is. Esav continuously deceives him. He wants to give, because he wants to give the blessings to Esav. And because of this chas v'sholom, this naivete, or this being out of touch, all the problems till the end of time happen, and Rivka shares nothing with her husband. It's an obvious question. Why does she share with her husband? So we had mentioned, Mark, I'm not sure if you were on, I think you weren't on that. You were there. Avram was a prophet, Yitzchak was a prophet. What is she going to Shem? Shem is not at the same level as Avram and Yitzchak. She has an in-house Novi. What is she taking going outside the house? So we'd mentioned Avram passed away 5 years before his time, that he should not be aware that Esav ultimately is going to become what he became. The day he passed away, that day he violated 5 cardinal sins. If Avram would have known this, it would have been contradictory to the Sefer Tov which he promised him. So Avram had to be kept in the dark. Yitzchak ultimately had to give the bracha, or attempt to give the bracha to Esav, because he wasn't aware of who he was, his true nature and his behavior. So ultimately, this contentious relation till the end of time should be in place. The whole concept of Esav sold to Yaakov. If Yitzchak would have known who Esav was and what the nature of this pregnancy was, because what Shem told him was, they're going to emerge from your womb, and they cannot coexist, these two children, 2 nations. Yitzchak would have cursed him rather than have any interest in giving a bracha. So Yitzchak had to be kept in the dark. A Navi only knows what Hashem communicates to him. Therefore, if she understood, for whatever reason, Avram was not informed. Yitzchak was not informed. She had no idea why. Although they were qualified to be informed, evidently they're supposed to be kept in the dark. What if she actually understands why through prophecy? It's something she cannot share. She can't share it with Avram, and she's not able to share it with Yitzchak. That's why Yitzchak was kept in the dark the whole time. Because Torah was clear, beyond any doubt, that Yitzchak cannot know the true nature of Esav. That's what we said. That's the tale of Lidru, says Hashem. V'yom Hashem lo. What did Hashem say? Through shame. Shnei goyim b'vidnech, the two nations in your womb. Ushnei b'umim, me'me'aychi paredu. And two lumens already, two entities. A nation can be a nation, ordinary nation. Lom is a nation that has a status, has a standing. And one will overpower the other, and the older will be subservient to the younger one. Rashi, Shnei Goyim, the spelling of Goyim, rather than having the Vov, that's called the Kri, the Ksiv, it's two Yuds. Why? So in the parenthesis it says, Goyim, two people of exalted status. Edu Antoninus Rebbe. Rabbi Yehuda Nossi was the redactor of the Mishnah. That's Torah Shabbat Peh. Antoninus was the Roman emperor. Shol Poskabal Shulchanam Lo Tznon V'Lo Chazeres. That all seasons, whether it was the vegetable was in season or out of season because of their status, one was an emperor, one was the prince of Klal Yisrael. So it's known the radish and chazeres, another vegetable, it was always available on that table. They had that special level of distinction. They were denied nothing in the material. Shnei goyim. It's interesting. Why do we say Shnei goyim? Goyim. One was the emperor, Antoninus, the emperor. Rebuda Nossi was the Nossi. That's Goyim. They both had exalted statuses. That statuses of distinction. But it says no. Why they Goyim? Chazal, because there was nothing that was denied to them in terms of their tables. Even vegetables were out of season, were always in season for them. It was always available. Is that what you talk about? What about him being the Nossi, being the leader of the Jewish people? We're talking about this is after the Churban Abayis, meaning they're recognized. There's something very distinctive about them, exalted. What are people impressed with? A Nasi. The Jewish people were what? They were under the boot, the heel of Rome. The Romans destroyed Beis Hamikdash. Until Antoninus, there was a decree that they were not permitted to study Torah. Only when Antoninus became emperor did he annul those decrees, and that's the reason why Rav Yehuda Nossi was able to redact the Torah Sheba'al Peh. Otherwise, it would have been impossible. It says he gathered all the Chachamim to his Bezdin, and he went and he picked and chose which positions are cogent and correct, and that's what he incorporated in Torah Sheba'al Peh. And the others he rejected, did not include. That level of research and evaluation and analysis wouldn't have been possible if the decree of not studying Torah would have been in place. And what's the reason why? The Gemara tells why did Rabbi Yehuda Nossi record Torah Sheba'al Peh, although it's a Torah violation, because of the decrees initially of the Romans, they were so harsh. Since Torah Sheba'al Peh is committed to memory, he was concerned people would start forgetting. And based on the Pasuk of Tehillim, it says, "Eis lasos Hashem hefer Torah." There's a time that you have to do for God, and even overrides the Torah law if the Torah is going to be annulled, because if the Jews are going to start forgetting the Torah, there's no Judaism. So therefore, it's Eis lasos Hashem. You must do for God when it's a time hefer Torah, where the Torah is going to be annulled. That was the basis to record Torah Sheba'al Peh. So these, only because Antoninus was the Roman emperor, who he had a special relationship. The Gemara speaks extensively about the relationship they had, where actually Rabbi Yehuda Nossi studied Torah with Antoninus. And according to Tosas, the Sanhedrin cites Yerushalmi, that ultimately Antoninus converted to Judaism, and he fled, became a Jew. But initially, it was only because Atenius was the emperor, was Rabbi Yehuda Nasi able to record the Torah, otherwise it would have been impossible. Shnei goyim do big thing. Goyim. The goyim is not because Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was the Nasi. Therefore, what? Chief rabbi of Ireland. The anti-Semitism in Ireland, to them makes chief rabbi not chief rabbi. To the Roman or to the world means nothing. Therefore, how do we depict them in that they're seen as something special? The table is one of kind of only their tables. There's no vegetable, no delicacy denied from their tables. That's game. I always say, we find that the Avos HaKadoshim, every one of them, was phenomenally wealthy. They had tremendous wealth. Avraham had wealth when he left Egypt. Vavarecha, right? Yeah, Varecha, that's with monetary. That was the blessed Lech Lecha. Yitzchak, we see that even was wealthier than Avimelech. It was a famine year, he planted. In a famine year, the yield was 100 times, and he became wealthier than Avimelech. Yaakov, just from the gift that he sent to Esav, which was a pittance of his wealth. You see his wealth. I mean, people of such holiness, what do they need such wealth? What did each of them represent? They were God's representatives in the world. What impresses people? Their spirituality means nothing to the world. But if you have wealth, then you reckoned with. Then you're valued, even if the person doesn't understand. And once he's attentive, there's a chance you can impress upon him to a degree. That's why Kodesh Baruch Hu made that every one of the patriarchs was phenomenally wealthy. Because what does the world understand? What do they appreciate? It's the financial. Power. Money is power. It's what it is. That's what they understand. The Avos HaKadosh, each of them had power. The reason why Avimelech drove Yitzchak out of his community was why? Was because he says, you become more powerful than I am. Because you know what the people say? People say, we prefer the dung of the donkeys of Yitzchak because when you plant, you fertilize the field with their dung, it grows from the field gold. And when you take the gold of Avimelech and you invest it, you know what the return is? The return is dung. So Avimelech said to Yitzchak, you're an embarrassment to me. You must leave my community because I'm being disgraced. So everybody in the world paled to the Avos HaKadoshim, even in terms of their wealth. Shnei goyim b'viknech, goyim, they're not being depicted as goyim because of who they were, but because of what they had on the table. Torah explains, look, if one person sits and studies day and night, as the Torah identifies, one's Yoshiva Olim, the other man's a hunter, he's out in the field. So if that's the case, I mean, who's going to be the obvious spiritual heir of Yitzchak? Yaakov, not Esav. The answer is, he wanted to create a Yisachar relationship. Right, so that's the idea. But the Yisachar, the Zvulun is only Zvulun if he esteems and reveres and values what the Yisachar is doing. But if Yitzchak would have known Esav, he wants to strangle Yaakov. He wants to take this out of existence. And since there's a reality in Kemach and Torah, you cannot exist unless you have material support. As a result of that, and that Yitzchak never knew that. So he only knew it wasn't God's plan that the support should come from outside of Yaakov. It has to be internal. How it's going to manifest, he doesn't know, but it's not the way he wants to do it.
After it all happens, Rivka knows.
But Rivka can't share it because
even after Yaakov goes to Lavan and he escapes.
Correct. Why did he escape? If you read the narrative, because Rivka says, I cannot tolerate the wives of Esav because they were idolaters. I'm disgusted with my life. There's no way I want Yaakov to marry from the daughters of Canaan.
So,
Therefore, he's going to Haran to marry his cousins.
what I'm trying to understand is, so Yitzchak is still alive at this point. So he must, at that juncture, know that Esav is who Esav is.
No, that he's no, he doesn't know. He knows he knows who he is. He's a hunter. He's not Yaakov spiritually speaking, but that he's evil. He has no idea that he's evil.
Even though Rivka informs Yaakov, you got to get out of here because your brother wants to kill you.
But you take a look in the Targum. Yaakov says, I'm a smooth-skinned person. My brother's hairy. My father will find out. He'll curse me. So she said, "Olai kilosum."
Right.
Wait. Targum says that I'm telling you to take the blessings. It's come to me through prophecy. What I'm giving you is a prophetic communication. That's why you have nothing to worry about. So the only reason why she was even permitted to divulge it to Yaakov was that was the prophecy. Prophetically, she was supposed to tell him, this is what you must do.
I'm at a different point in time in the narrative, Rabbi.
Okay.
It all happens. Yaakov leaves. Rivka does not share with Yitzchak doesn't figure out that his eldest son is a Russia. Correct. And wants to kill the spiritual heir of the Jewish people.
Correct.
Still in the dark?
Yes. In the dark. There's a medrash, and this, we read that Yitzchak was considered blind, and he was confined to his house because of his infirmity. He was blind. So one of the reasons he was blind, Avraham Avinu had 5 years taken off his life, because ultimately, if he would have found out who Esav was. Why? Because he would hear what people are saying in the street. They would speak about Esav like, oh, he's a monster. He's an adulterer. He's a murderer. He's a thief. He blasphemes God. He's an idolater. Avram would hear this. It's over. His blessing of you will die, pass away at a good age is not going to happen. Yitzchak had his sight taken away from him. Therefore, he did not mingle in society. He was confined to the house. Therefore, he had no idea what people said, what the world said about Esav. Because it would have been inevitable. If he would have been outside, he would have heard everything. Therefore, God took away his sight for two reasons. That he should not be able to see that it's Yaakov and not Esav. And in addition, that ultimately he should not be able to find out what people are saying about Esav, and therefore he was confined to the house. That's the medrash explicitly.
So I guess I can just imagine I've got the spiritual heir of the Jewish people, and I got this monster that wants to kill. I don't know. One would think that Rivka would say, "Hey, listen, we need to make sure that Esav doesn't kill Yaakov, or Yitzchak's a wealthy man; he can command his troops to go sort of, I don't know, quarantine him or
only thing that could stop Esav. Only thing, troops cannot stop Esav. He's a representative. The only thing that could stop Esav is Yitzchak's curse. That's the only thing that could stop him. We find Esav was a powerful man. When he heard that the blessing was given to Yaakov, he was 63. He cried like a baby. It says he wailed. He wailed. You're a man. You're an idolater. You're a monster. And your father's this little holy Jew. And when you hear that he didn't give you the blessing, you break down crying like your life's coming to an end. Because as much as he didn't believe, but he understood what his father represented. That if his father gives him that blessing, then he's empowered. And if that blessing is not given to him, it was given to his brother's empowered. That means he's secondary. And therefore, Yitzchak did give him a blessing. And Chazal say, and Yitzchak is faulted for giving that blessing. He touched a soft spot in Yitzchak, and he gave him the blessing. Because of that blessing, ultimately, we have to contend with Esav to a greater degree. Because he wouldn't have that blessing, ultimately, it would have been easy to survive with Esav. If only a certain person is worthy of the blessing, and you give it to the wrong person, the blessing doesn't take effect. right? It doesn't work. So if that's the case, what? And we find that Yitzchak felt he blessed the wrong person. Then afterwards, we'll see in a moment, and he started to wail and cry. So then Esav admitted that he sold the birthright. So therefore, Yaakov, he understood Yitzchak, firstly, that the only way he could get the birthright, he had to come to impersonate his brother. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had it. But he attributed, Esav's not as refined. Even though he sold it, he would have taken in the case. But Yaakov ultimately took what was rightfully his. And Esav admitted it to Yitzchak. That Yaakov was the right person to take it, except he said he duped me. He took it from me underhandedly. That's what he said to Yitzchak. He fooled me twice. Right? We'll get there. We'll see. So Yitzchak understood legally Yaakov had a right to the blessings because he purchased it. In addition, the Sefarno explains when Yitzchak gave the blessing to Yaakov, he felt, firstly, it says when he came in, it says he smelt the fragrance. What was the fragrance? He felt as if he was in Gan Eden. The fragrance, which is the ultimate fragrance of Gan Eden, entered when Yaakov came in. Although he had hides of goats on his hands and his chest, it had no relevance to what it really smelled like. So he felt the ultimate level of the Shechina was with this person who came to take the brachas. And as a result that he felt the bracha took effect. That the one he was blessing was the one who really was qualified to receive the bracha. It's even afterwards, he understood Yaakov, whoever this person was, deserved the bracha. Yaakov, he had to figure out why. So on that, when he divulged it, he sold it to him, he understood why everything happened the way it happened. And only that Yitzchak should not bless the wrong person, the only way that could come about was only through this level of deception.
I'm sorry. So at the moment in time, at the giving of the blessing to Yaakov, or just thereafter,
Yitzchak was experiencing as if he was in the Garden of Eden.
So he knew it was the right. He knew it was right.
Right, and not only that, when he gave the blessing, he felt it actually taking hold.
And he was subsequently, or whatever, he was informed either at the moment or subsequently that Esav had already sold his birthright.
No, Esav comes back a moment later, and like Yitzchak was taken aback because he believed he just gave the bracha to Esav. Then he realized it wasn't, and he says, "My brother duped me a number of times." And he started crying. He says, "How did he dupe me?" He says, "Initially, when I sold him the birthright, he duped me." Whatever he said to him. But Esav divulged himself that Yaakov legally had a right to the bracha, but it only came through him through deception. He's an underhanded person. We'll discuss this in a minute. I mean, factually, initially, the Jews, they always take advantage of the next guy when they see a person's the weak moment, then they get aggressive, right? That's always the claim again. That's the Jewish personality, underhanded. But we'll see in a moment that's not the reality of Yaakov. That's not it. I want to skip a little bit because again, it's Friday and Ernie, he has to have patience. He can only have so much patience till next year. So here it says, Chav Tes, skip the Chav Tes. V'yozed Yaakov nozid. Yaakov was cooking something, a stew. We'll see, it was lentils. V'yavo Esav min hasodah hu oiv. Esav returned from the field and he was fatigued. Rashi explains, what was he fatigued? Hu oiv b'ritzicho. He just committed murder. But Chazal tells that he committed 5 cardinal sins. Murder was one of them. 1 second. He says, he uses the term haliteni. It was an earthy way of expressing, give me some of that red. He didn't say the red lentils, so he says some of that red stuff. Because I'm so fatigued, so weary, I don't even have the strength to eat it myself. Just pour it down my throat. Rashi cites the Gemara. How do you feed a camel? You just stuff it. You pour it down its throat and you stuff it in. Okay, one second. So yeah, he's saying, I'm passing out. I'm so fatigued. I didn't have the strength to eat it myself. Just pour it down my throat. He's about to pass out. Yaakov feels, now's the time. Take advantage. Yom Yaakov, Michrach Hayom, Esfachoseli. No problem. You want the lentil soup? Sell me a birthright. That's what I want. Sell me the birthright. Yom Esav, Hine, Elokei Avraham, Lamis Lisa Bechora. Ultimately, if I'm going to die, what do I need the birthright? Which Rashi will explain. He explained to him what the birthright entails. You're going to be the officiant of Hashem, the Kohen, and if a person drinks, he's subject to spiritual excision, death. And if you don't cut your hair within 30 days, also your service is not valid, and also terrible, terrible liability and consequences. So when he heard this, he said, "What do I need it for? I'd have to put my life in jeopardy with all these restrictions. I don't need it." So Rashi says like this. So Rashi says, they were lentils, Vosiom, Mesavrom. That day Avram passed away. Why? They should not say his grandson going L'Tarbis, going a culture, being a path which is evil, represents evil. And this is not the good old age that Hashem promised him. Therefore, God deducted 5 years from his life that he should not witness this. He was meant to live 180, but he had 5 years, as Yitzchak lived 180. Okay, he explains why lentils.
Rabbi.
One second. Why did he ask for the B'choros? The fish avoda b'B'choros. Because the avoda is done by the firstborn. Before the Chet Egel, who are the Kohanim were the B'chor. Omer Yaakov, Eich Rosh Zeh Kedai Shikrav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Why did he take the B'chorah? Because he wanted the birthright. Doesn't say that. That's not why he took the birthright. He took the birthright, he says, this evil man. It's totally inappropriate. It's a disgrace that he should be the officiant, that he should serve Hashem. It's not he wanted it for himself. He wanted it because it'd be a chil Hashem at the most extreme level if this person would be the officiant. That's why he wanted it. He's not here to dupe him. He's catching him in a weak moment. It was a weak moment because that's the only way he could take it. But why? What was the objective? What was his motive? His motive was not self-interest. It was purely kavod shamayim, purely for God's glory. Anything less than this would have been the most extreme level of disgrace. That's what we find later. When Yitzchak gave the bracha to Esav, he said to him, if there will ever come a time where you're going to be pained that the Bechorah was taken from you, and Rashi says over there, when the Jews don't behave as Jews, then you will have the upper hand. The Bechorah becomes totally insignificant. It only has value for Yaakov if they behave like Yaakov. But if his children do not behave like Yaakov, you have the upper hand. That's what he said. Which means the only basis why Yaakov wanted the Bechorah was for kavod shamayim. So if you live representing kavod shamayim, the Bechorah is yours. And that was Yaakov's objective. But if the Jews themselves become the disgrace to God, that means you have no right to it. Of course, the original basis for it is only that. Therefore, it reverts back to Esav. That's to understand. With that, we explain many things. That's why after Eliphaz had taken the wealth away from Yaakov, and the reason why Yaakov forfeited his wealth, because he said to Eliphaz when he wanted to kill him, he says, "Only choshev kemes." You learned, your grandfather, that if you're impoverished, you're like a dead person. And he comes home, and Esav says to his son Eliphaz, "So what happened?" And he tells him the story. I didn't kill him, only choshev kemes. So why did he go after him? So we explained the reason why they go after him. Because Esav understood. Nobody understood love better than Esav, because Esav was an exaggerated lover. And he understood that whatever Yaakov is, with all his learning, you cannot survive there as a spiritual person unless you go in and go out immediately. And without the wealth, he's stuck there. And once you're stuck, your spiritual status is gone. If that's the case, the Bechorah reverts back automatically to him. That's the reason why they pursue him. But when he received the gifts and he saw that Yaakov had wealth, he understood that he misread it. That's when he was ready to go to battle. But until that, for 20 years, he didn't go after Yaakov. Because he understood, he believed Yaakov didn't exist anymore. As a spiritual person, once that happens, everything bounces back to Esav, because the basis for taking it was only because I'm a disgrace. I don't represent what he represents, but now he's no better than I am. Therefore, me being the firstborn, it comes back to me, the Bechorah. That's the understanding. And
So I'm asking, why was Avraham taken 5 years before? We have the understanding that he was promised to have, to live to good old age, and
so those extra 5 years were invaluable because he could have influenced Esav during those 5 years.
100%.
Wait. Why did Avram leave Merkazdim? Choron. Why? Why did he leave Choron?
Because Hashem told him to leave.
Why? But why?
Because he had no right. He was not going to be successful doing kiruv.
It's like being in a cemetery, as the perfume cannot benefit who's deceased. You cannot affect these people. Gone. That Avram was taken. If Avram could have made a difference in Esav, of course he would have kept him. Esav represented evil. Avram wouldn't have changed him.
Right, we said that, but the reality is Terach and Ishmael both did tshuva.
Hello.
Okay, so why not Esav?
Do you know better than God? Do you know better than God what the reality is?
Of course not, but
that's what we're talking about. Evidently, Esav wouldn't have done tshuva. He wouldn't have done tshuva. What if he wouldn't have done tshuva? Can I ask you a question?
We don't know that, Rabbi.
Why did God destroy Sodom? Why? And it says the appellation of Hashem is Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is Midas Rachman. Because Midas Rachman only plays a role if there's a chance, if there's hope. If there's no hope, even Midas Rachman agrees it's over. There's no point in mercy. Therefore, Hashem destroyed them. Esav is at a point now, he's beyond return. Beyond return, if that's the case, this will be contradictory to Avram's whole existence. He's out. He takes
Rabbi, to Alan's point, though, I mean, why wasn't Yaakov reprimanded for hiding Dinah from Esav? So why? And we say that if Dinah would have married Esav,
good question. That's a good point. It's asked. The question's asked. If Esav was beyond hope, right? Firstly, you could say Avram wouldn't have made a difference, but maybe Dinah would have made a difference. Maybe. That's number one. Secondly, the way it's explained, the two things. There's no way. Yaakov should have understood that it's not meant to be. If Dinah is not meant to be to be the wife of Esav, there's no way he's going to be able to take her. Yaakov has nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. That he denied her from Esav, that's the claim against her. It's the denying her. Yaakov was at a level he should have believed, because of who he is and who his daughter is, there's no way Hashem will allow this to happen. There's not even a basis for hishtadlus. But that he had this level of animosity towards him, that he wouldn't allow his daughter even to be seen by him, and Hashem should make that decision, that was the claim against him. That's the way it's explained. Because otherwise there's a question. The man's a monster. You have a daughter that's holy, then holy. You're allowed to marry a guy who's a monster, who's a spiritual monster, there's no way. What kind of claim could there be against Yaakov? The answer is there's no way it could have happened. But because he had such a level of animus toward him, he wouldn't even allow it even to come to play that Hashem should intercede and not let it happen. That was the claim against it. At least you should allow your
happy, Rabbi. I mean, Avraham has such a track record, unbelievable, right? We talk about him in unbelievable glowing terms.
I'll give you an example.
To not give him a shot.
Hold it. You have a chess master, Alan. He went to whatever. He played chess in Oxford. He played chess in what's name in Long Island, in Jericho, where in Babylon, wherever he was. Oh, he was the chess master. Now you got this guy coming out of Russia, the chess master. Is this a match, Alan? Of course. Are you out of your mind? You can put Alan against this guy, chess master. This guy with his blindfolds, he could beat Alan on the chessboard. I couldn't care less what Avraham was. If Hashem says this man is not rehabilitated, you can't rehabilitate him. Impossible. Avraham has a track. What does that track record have to do with Esav? Hashem already made his decision. It's beyond hope. That's it. That's the end of the story. So you're going back to the same empty well to ask the same question over and over again. But he has a track record. The track record has no relevance to what Esav was. But you realize, Alan, he's still wearing, when he graduated the university, he still has that suit. So if that's the case, that suit means it's going to be here for eternity. No, maybe up to a point. After that, it totally falls apart, disintegrates.
If you buy well, Rabbi, it lasts a long time.
Exactly. He committed 5 cardinal sins. 5. What are the 5? Murder, adultery, idolatry, blasphemy, whatever it was. But it says there were 5. And because of that, Avram couldn't be aware of that, because it would be contradictory to the blessing, or to the promise. Let me ask a question. And if he would have committed 4, wouldn't have been enough that it should be contradictory to the promise? And 3 of that wouldn't have been enough. But it makes a point there were 5. So there's a morale. The morale of Prague says, there's a Gemara in Megillah. It says there were 5 people who are, it says this, and they were tzaddikim mitchilasum bat sofam. 5, there were 5 tzaddikim. And there were 5 evil people. They were evil from the beginning till the end. So morale says, what's 5? 5 is a representation of reality. You could say things happen. It's incidental. But if something repeats itself 5 times, that indicates it's a reality. It is what it is. So when we speak about 5 people Rishon, meaning they are a true representation of evil. And we speak 5 tzaddikim, they are a true representation of what? Of good, of righteousness. Because we always speak about 5. 5 is always a unifying number. You have 4 things at 4 corners. And when you put the center point, the center brings everything together. That's always 5. It was 5 sins. If it would have been 4, you say these things happen. Nobody's perfect. But on the same day that 5 cardinal sins take place, that's a confirmation that he's truly evil. That's what had to be 5 and not 4 and 3. It had to be 5. And as a result of that, Avram was taken out 5 years before his time. That's number 1. Secondly, I wanted to say, when Esav heard that Avram passed away, he comes back from the field and he sees that Yaakov's cooking this lentil soup and his face is smudged with soot. And he says, what happened? And he understands it's not a happy moment. He says, Zakeinenu mess. Our grandfather passed away. That's what happened. So what does Esav say?
Yes,
if our grandfather passed away, there's no judgment, there's no judge. I deny the existence of God. So the question is, why such an extreme reaction? And he lived to 175. So he believed initially he was supposed to live to 180. God shortchanged him 5 years. What's less living, less dying? Esav saw it like this. If God gave his word, you're meant to live 180. A person owes a certain amount of money. And when he pays the debt, he shortchanges his creditor. Well, what's going on? You owe me, you have to give me the full amount. Esav said, what's going on over here? If Avraham was supposed to live 180, how does he live 175? You know what the answer is? Les din, les dayim. There's no judgment, there's no judge. And because of this was the last nail in his own coffin. So the reason why he passed away 5 years early, because he committed murder. And he himself is the cause of doing the fifth cardinal sin, denying God's existence. You understand? Because he saw it, if God is God, how does he shortchange him 5 years? Understanding who Avraham is. You're supposed to be God's most intimate person. How does he shortchange you 5 years? The answer is, even God you can't trust. There's no judge, there's no judgment, there's no nothing. But he himself was the cause. Why did he die 5 years early? He should not see Esav. So he's the one who actually dug his grave even deeper to totally disconnect from spirituality.
Rabbi, what does soaking do though? If you take the meat and just soak it in water,
So it has to be soaked for like a half an hour or an hour.
and then it's shipped. Then it's shipped across the country.
No. Even a butcher in the butcher shop, he soaks it because the soaking, the water absorbs into the meat and it doesn't allow the blood to coagulate.
Right, and then how long does that last for though?
You have 3 days. From there, another 3 days.
I see. So what do they do now?
Well, it's done within 3 days. The blood does not coagulate.
But in terms of like the livers, or even if you didn't do that, and let's say you coagulated, then that meat could still be used, but you have to broil it, right?
Yeah, but only through broiling. It's permitted.
Right. So why would they? So you
Meat automatically loses its value. If you sell meat that can only be broiled, you can't sell the same value as meat that could be cooked.
Understood, but you still can use it though, but it has to be broiled.
Yeah, but there was a store in Baltimore many years ago. There was a supermarket. It was called Shapiro's, and there was a whole discussion. You know, Alan's a cardiologist. Certain people have to have salt-free diets. So what did they want to do? It had supervision. They wanted to sell meat that was not salted and put up a sign, can only be used in broiled. Put up a sign, such a sign. Many of the patrons of this supermarket were not observant Jews. They kept dietary rules. They would only buy kosher meat. But if you tell them, even though the sign says only for broiling, they'll say, but they'll cook the meat. And as a result of that, they're selling meat because the people who buy it, they're not going to salt the meat themselves. It has to be salted and purveyed by the supermarket. They said if you sell meat that's not salted, we're removing our hechsher from the supermarket. Listen, inevitably, people are going to buy it and they're not going to salt it. They're going to not only use it broiled, they'll cook that meat, and it becomes a problem.
Rabbi, with the broiling situation, nowadays a lot of people like their meat rare, medium rare. I'm assuming when you say broiling, you're saying broiling to well done.
Correct. You don't see
because medium rare or rare would be a problem.
When we eat meat today, rare anything, it's not a problem because you can even eat the meat when it's totally red, when it's raw. Because all the blood, once you do the process right, there's no blood left in that meat. So we're broiling meat, rare, medium rare, fully well done. It's meat that has no blood in it, so it's not a problem.
No, I'm saying in the situation where it wasn't salted and we're broiling, it would have to be well done.
Well, very well done. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's a problem.
Otherwise, it still has blood in it. Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry. So can I just consolidate this? So you need to salt the meat within a 3-day period of time, or have it soaked in water, which I guess prolongs the period of time in which you can salt it.
Correct.
Okay. So you salt it, 12 hours after it's slaughtered.
Yeah. Correct.
You got 72 hours plus 12, 84, in total 84 hours, as long as you do the soaking within the 3-day period of time.
Right. And if you soak it, then you have another 3 days, up to another 3 days.
You soak it again.
You soak it again. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And so but meat these days is basically that we receive has been salted, and
Correct. So there's never, even if the juices look red, that is meat juice. That's not blood. There's no blood in that juice.
in
So
the event that you whatever you're living Henry Thoreau on Walden Pond, and you got to kill your own animal or whatever it may be, you would need to broil it if you didn't have whatever you didn't have enough salt, and so you need to broil it to well done.
I'll tell you, it's la'aloch decided. You know, this salt that's called kosher salt. Why is it called kosher salt? What could that be not kosher about salt? The answer is kosher salt is coarse salt. Because table salt you cannot use for koshering, for salting. Why? Because what happens? You put the salt on the meat and the blood immediately starts flowing from the meat. You have to cover the meat with salt. If it's coarse, the salt doesn't immediately dissolve in the blood. If you put salt and it mixes, it becomes like a paste. The salt loses its effectiveness. It does not draw out. But coarse salt, it remains crystals on the surface, so it's continuously drawing out the blood out of the meat. Therefore, it's not so simple. If a person only has table salt, could you use table salt to do the koshering process? It's definitely discouraged to use it because of this problem. However, even when we salt meat, there's tosis and psachim, even when we broil it, you add some salt. Yeah, still, you don't have to salt as you normally salt for cooking, but even when you broil, Tosa says you should salt it slightly. Why? Because the salt expedites the process of extracting the blood. It's a combination, mainly the fire and the salt in conjunction, the process is expedited.
today at the slaughterhouses, Rabbi, did they soak it there and then ship it out?
No. Well, if it's sent cross country, normally it's sent right after slaughtered. Within 12 hours, it's at the butcher. It's at the butcher. They deliver it most. If it's sent out of town, they have to do something. So it depends. If it's going to arrive a day later, 2 days later, it's not a problem. But the butcher, when he receives it, has to immediately attend. It's part. They devein it, and then before they soak it, they devein it. Because there's certain parts of the meat which have fat, which is considered chelev, and that fat has to be cut away. There's certain veins in the meat. The Gemara says that if you have a vein is like a rubber hose. Salt can only extract something that's absorbed in a corpuscle. If you have a vein, it's not going to draw the blood out of the vein. So either the vein has to be removed, or certain veins have to be severed, cut, that when you put the salt, it will draw the blood from the vein that's cut in multiple locations. It'll draw it from the opening of the vein, it'll draw it out of the meat. But if you have a long vein and it's not removed or cut in a certain way, that blood is going to remain within the vein. And if it remains in the vein, when you cook the meat, that blood will come out during the cooking process.
What was the end psak on the frozen meat in Israel? What did they decide?
Everybody, it's more than a b'diavad. L'chatchila people did not rely on it, but it's 100% reliable.
Oh, it's reliable.
It was reliable. People they were observant Jews in Israel. The only meat they had in Israel was frozen meat or chicken. Chickens were local. The chickens were raised in Israel, but meat was imported from South America. Okay, I see people are getting off for Rosh Chodesh. Okay, let's do Rabbeinu Yonah a little bit, and we'll do the Gemara. Alan, when are you checking out? You're on silent.
Yeah. Probably about 10 minutes.
Okay, so we'll do Rabbeinu Yonah a little bit.
Maybe a little less, yeah.
Okay. Left off 642 and Rabbeinu Yonah. The Omer Zechron Livrocha. Ola, you have a burnt offering. What is a burnt offering? If we say an asay, this is very interesting. you do tshuva, it fully rehabilitates the person. If you need matzah, you didn't say the sukkah, you didn't take the species, you didn't say shema. Tshuva alone is enough to be fully atoned. Lo sasa, a negative eat non-kosher meat, it's what? It's tshuva and Yom Kippur. Now, we know that an old offering, it's called kapara. What is it mechapara? What does it atone for? You're fully atoned. Negative commandment, you have tshuva and you have Yom Kippur. What does the olam, the burnt offering, add? Olam chaper som mishover al mitzvah asay achrei tshuva. Even a mitzvah asay after tshuva, ki omnom niskaper avon b'tshuva. A person is fully atoned when it does tshuva. Achaola tosef al kaporoso. What the ola, the burnt offering, adds to the kapora, the Yosef lisratzis bo Hashem yisborach. What it adds is you should be endeared to Hashem. It creates an endearment. A person is forgiven. The one who forgives, I have no claim against you. But the relationship, because it already was initially violated, although there's no claim, but it's slightly tarnished. It's not the same. The Ola reinstates the person fully, that now he returns to the endeared state. That's Laratzos. The Gemara in Zvachim says that a person sins against the king forgives him. But then you bring a gift to the king. Because until you bring the gift, although you're not persona non grata, but you know something, you're not one of the favorites of the king. But when you bring the gift and you show to what degree you revere the king, now you're become endeared to the king. That's kevi doro. It's like bringing a gift. The ola is the equivalent of a gift. And therefore it creates an endearment. Therefore the person is reinstated to the endeared level. That's the Gemara, and that's what the Rabbi Yonah is saying over here. Give you an example. You know, people, when they do mitzvahs, they do it sometimes with hidur, which is zekel and they do it the most elaborate way, and across the board. It's not they pick and choose. When they do it, they want to do it not only to be yotzi, to meet the minimum criteria, they want to do it correctly. That person is no question. It's seen by Hashem as special. You're willing to put yourself out for Hashem to the nth degree. What about another person? He just wants to get by. He buys tzitzis, the most inferior, but it meets the basic level of being kosher. He observes Shabbos, but he's always on the periphery of Shabbos, but he doesn't cross the lines. Understand? If you understand what Shabbos is, how do you not do it fully committed? If you're fully committed, you do it. You're fully invested in it. Doing it half-baked, you want a relationship. How do you have that special relationship if on your side of it, you're not fully invested? Understand? A person does tshuva. He crossed the line, did the wrong thing. Okay? You're not perfect. You have true remorse. You make commitment, you're not doing it again. Even though the person's fully invested, Hashem says it's still not enough. Because you crossed the line, as a result of that, you have to bring the over to be reinstated to the endearment level. That's the reason. But a person initially, his whole avodas Hashem is he's like dancing on the edges, but he's not doing it the way he should. That person's not endeared. You know, every relationship is a two-sided relationship. You're not there for me, I'm not there for you. But if a person is there for Hashem, he's willing to be fully invested, then Hashem is fully invested for that person. That's the way it works. Od Amru. Odom chapers ala olo, aruach b'nei odom, mihuri alev, machshem saveros. What about a person didn't cross the line, but he thought about certain things that he shouldn't have thought about? He wanted to do the wrong thing, and then he caught himself. Hiruri averos. Thoughts of immorality and sinful intentions. Either you have those levavtim, but person says, he's tempted and he has temptations, he thinks about them, and then he suppresses it. You didn't violate anything yet. But still, that you considered puts you, I'll give you an example. Person comes before a potential client, and he has in mind he's going to actually mislead him and do something which will be financially hurtful to that person. And the potential client picks it up right away. And the one who tries to do it realizes that the guy picked it up. And then afterwards he says he doesn't actually deliver his intention. He does the deal fully with full integrity. You understand? I, knowing that initially he came to finagle me and mislead me and cause me financial harm, although because I picked it up, all of a sudden you change your direction and you were fully on board. It's not the same. I can't trust you. Because the only reason why I did it because you knew I knew, but you would have. Person has sinful thoughts. A person has sinful thoughts. You never know when he's going to cross the line. So even though you didn't do the sin, therefore, to reestablish your credibility, you bring the old offering. That reinstates. You didn't violate anything.
Rabbi, there's a difference though between that and where the guy sort of gets understands that he's trying to rip him off, and someone who says, you know what, I'm going to get a cheeseburger. I'm going to go right to McDonald's. And right before he gets there, he says, you know what, I can't do this. It's not the right thing to do.
Oh, but that you even consider doing the wrong thing. How do you even consider it?
But it isn't.
Does make a difference. How did you consider?
But there's a big difference though with the guy. He says,
I'll give you an example. God forbid, person was attracted to somebody else's wife, and then afterwards, he suppressed it. How do you even consider, even think about somebody else's wife? If you understand what the law is, it's unacceptable. I suppressed it. God forbid he wouldn't have to do such a thing.
I mean, isn't that the Yetzer Hara though, Rabbi? Isn't that what it is?
Doesn't make the difference. Doesn't make a difference.
I mean, everybody has.
You may have not sinned, but are you endeared to God? Of course, it's the Yetzer Hara. But a person's inside, these thoughts don't even enter in his mind. Because he's so committed to God, God forbid, he sees it as something which is totally detestable.
So the Yetzer Hara, I don't understand. Everybody has thoughts in their mind, Rabbi.
Nobody's born a tzaddik. We have our moments. But the more you advance spiritually speaking, and the more spiritualized you become, a lot of this stuff comes to mind much less.
Fine, but it still comes to mind, Rabbi. So are we saying that something that comes to mind is like I mean, I don't understand it.
If it comes to mind as a flicker and immediately pass it, this is a person who has to suppress it. We're talking about suppress it. I want to do the sin and I want to do it. A person has a thought, which is an inappropriate thought, then it immediately passes and is gone. Doesn't mean anything. That means we're not talking about that. A person's really thinking about sinning, then he goes and reins in on himself. That's what we're talking about over here. The question: how did you even come to that point that you wanted to do it?
I would think but the fact that he didn't do it is such a high madrega because
it's a high madrega, but still.
Right. So doesn't that atone for the thought that he had?
It's not enough. Not enough. You still need that ola to be reinstated, to be endeared by Hashem. A person's upset with his father, and he says he's going to beat his father up. That's how incensed he is against his father. But then afterwards, he calms down, but the person thinks to himself, how did I even think about such a thing? Knowing it's my father, how do I lose control that I even consider beating him? And he berates himself. It's It's the same idea. To be able to reach a level that you're going to go and hurt your father at such a level that, you know something, another person will never come to that consideration ever.
I mean, I guess what we're saying is that there's degrees of attitude of thought that some are worse, some are okay.
It's a flicker of thought. It means nothing because the Gemara says there's certain things which are impossible to avoid. Hivurei Avei, or the Gemara says a chulin. Everybody has that for a moment, then it totally dissipates. Gemara says Yechezkel Hanavi was at a level even that never entered his mind, never. He was so pure. Okay, that's a Yechezkel. But every other person, it's almost like it's unavoidable for a moment. But it's a flicker. It's not something you focus on. You don't focus on.
So we're saying when we say that a tzaddik Yetzer Hara is greater, much greater than a regular person's Yetzer Hara, what's that Yetzer Hara doing there? But what happens?
I'll tell you what the Yetzer Hara is not what we're talking about. The Yetzer Hara, the tzaddik is you're supposed to do the mitzvah lishma, and the person does the mitzvah lishma. Those are his challenges. Or you're supposed to do it out of love. And you don't only do it out of reverence. And you're at a level, you could have done it at a more advanced level. Those are the challenges of a tzaddik. The ordinary guy, those aren't the challenges. He doesn't even know what you're talking about. But as you upgrade, you have different kinds of challenges presented to you. Right? I'll give you an example. Person never ate non-kosher in his life, ever. You think the Yetzer is coming to convince you should eat non-kosher? There's no way you're going to eat non-kosher under any circumstance. So that's not going to be this guy's challenge. He'll have other challenges. And the Yetzer knows how to play like a fiddle, literally like a fiddle. He knows exactly where you're at, what your weaknesses are, what your vulnerabilities are, and that's what he's going to present to you. So the person's the tzaddik. He's been immersed in Torah for the past 60 years. What is it? He's in the middle of Shmona Esrei. All of a sudden, he thinks about something which is not exactly in sync with sensing he's in the presence of Hashem. That's his challenge. Or, as I said, when you put on a tefillin, were you thinking Lishma? When you said Yudke Vavke, did you think Master? Did you think Infinite? Did you think all these things? I was once by the Tosha Rebbe. I was there a few times. Tosha Rebbe was on the suburbs of Montreal, the outskirts of Montreal. He was a very holy man. I went there not because I'm a chassid. Somebody asked me to go there, so I went there. When he would say a bracha, first he was very frail health. He only ate a liquid diet because of his health, and he's there, and they bring him a cup, and it had all kinds of vitamins dissolved in the water, and he holds the cup, and he says Baruch Atah Hashem. Okay, his pronunciation was like chassid. He was a Hungarian Jew, and when he says Hashem, what do you think happens? Ernie, what happens? When you say Baruch, what happens to you? Well, you think Hashem, Master. You know what he says? He starts trembling. He starts shaking. Could you understand? How do you not tremble? If you're at a certain level, the question, how do you not tremble? And he trembled. But I saw it in my own eyes. They brought up some of that also. Again, he trembled. His Shemona Esrei every day was 3 hours. 3 hours. Your Shlich Tzibri, more than 2 minutes and 5 seconds. They're telling you, they're pushing you off the helmet already. Here he's there 3 hours. What's taking so long? Evidently, he has what to say and what to think about. That's the reason why David's Bechidus. Here's what I see is, his Kabbalah. Okay, David, how did you like that one? That's my level of expectation of you. Okay, 3 hours, Shemona Esrei. Okay, let's see the Gemara in Be'er. Howard, you're on board? Okay. We left off on Lamed and Aleph towards the bottom, the last fifth quarter of the page. The Mishnah says that if you have a pile of straw, which is normally used for fuel, we're talking Yom Tif, even though the person hadn't begun taking from before Yom Tif of that pile, you're permitted. Why? What's the machlokas Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda? Reb Shimon is more lenient when it comes to muktzah, because Reb Shimon's one aspect of his position, anything that's available to you, even though you didn't think specifically about it, it's not muktzah. Reb Yehuda says no. Even if something's available, unless you have in mind that you're going to use it, it's considered muktzah. You have to have something much more specific. Reb Shimon says no. As long as it's not negated and it's available, it's not muktzah. That's the machlokes of Shimon and Reb Yehuda. So I have a pile of straw which I haven't begun taking to use it for fuel. I haven't. But because it is fuel, although he didn't think specifically, but since that's its value, you don't have to think specifically that it should be fuel because it is fuel. Okay? So if the Mishnah says you could maschil about the aremus teben, evidently the Mishnah is going with Reb Shimon. You following?
How do we know that it wasn't designated, though? If it was designated, everybody would agree, you're saying.
No. Fuel is fuel. Straw can be used either for animal fodder or it's used for fuel. This fuel, it's like a new bundle of teben, and he didn't open it up yet. Let's say he didn't open the package or the bundle. Does he have to open it before to indicate that he's going to use it, this Yom Tif, or even he doesn't open it up? Because since that's its value, is that called a negation? Not opening it, that means you didn't think about it. Reb Shimon says you don't have to think about it. If that's its value, you don't have to think about it. Reb Yehuda says no, everything has to be thought about. So if you open the package before Yom Tif, that means you thought about it to actually use it. But if you didn't, although that's its value, it's considered muktzah. That's what the Gemara understands in this moment. Okay?
Rav Shimon would hold that a rock outside, you want to use it as a door stopper.
That's understood because a rock has no relevance to be a door stopper.
Right. So even Rav Shimon.
That's of course that's muktzah.
Okay. So he wouldn't. So it has to be some kind of value, some kind of
right. Correct.
Useful.
It has a value, but do I have to think about the value? You don't have to think about it. That's its value. It's the value.
So here we're talking about.
Let me give you an example. According to you, that you have food in the cupboard, and you didn't think you're going to serve crackers at the kiddush, and all of a sudden you change. We're going to serve crackers. Crackers in the cupboard means it's available. Even Reb Yehuda agrees that it's not muktzah. You don't have to think about eating crackers, not eating crackers. Crackers in the cupboard means you're going to use it. But this,
so why wouldn't Rav Yehuda hold that you can use this straw then?
Of course, it's a remus attempt that wasn't started. It's different. It's not the same thing. Here, sometimes you use it, you store it away. It's stored away. I'll give you an example. According to review, unless your person is a storekeeper, and the store's closed on Shabbos, and he has an Eruv, and all of a sudden he runs short of a certain product, and he has the product in the store, and he opens it, he doesn't set off an alarm system. Could he go to the store, take something out of the store, which he never intended to take out of the store, something that's not mitzvah, and he doesn't have to violate Shabbos by taking it out of the store? So he never thought about going to the store to get it, but he ran short at home. He needs this particular product. He's going to the store to take it. According to, is that muktzah or not muktzah?
According to Rav Shimon, it would not be.
We'll say according to Rav Shimon, it would not be muktzah.
According to Rav Yehuda, it would be.
Will be muktzah, correct? But if it's in your cupboard, in the cupboard means it's there for your usage in your cupboard. We'll see the Gemara ask a contradiction. If the Mishnah is on the Reb Yehuda that aremus hatevin is not muktzah because you don't have to think specifically, but yet the next halacha in the Mishnah says, but if you have wood in the storage shed, which is also its value is fuel, cooking and fuel, you're not permitted to take wood if it's in the storage shed. What's the difference? It's a pile of straw, or it's wood in the storage shed. It's all the same.
Yeah, but didn't we say that straw could be eaten by an animal? Wood can't be eaten.
No, but we're talking about this wood. Aremes atem is not only for even to feed your animal, even to feed your animal, same thing, not specifically for fuel. So the Gemara says, okay, let's stop. Let's see the Gemara. Maschil Meres the Omer of Hukana Zosa Meres Maschilin Ba'otzim Betchilo, that even though it's stored away, Otzim is like in the storage location, you're permitted to go there and take the straw. Betchilo, even though he didn't have any indication that he was going to take that straw before Yom Tov. You're permitted money. So who's the Mishnah going like? Reb Shimoni, the Leslie Muktzah. Evidently, the Mishnah is one of Reb Shimon, who does know the Muktzah. And the Sefer, let's see the conclusion of the Mishnah. Avalo eitzim shebemuktzah. But if you have wood in the storage shed, is Yom Tov, you're not permitted to take wood out of the storage shed to use for fuel. So the Gemara asks, so, but if it's going like Shimon, why aren't you not permitted? The answer is also Reb Yehuda. So the same Mishnah, first statement is going like Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, second one is going like Reb Yehuda. This label, it's contradictory. I mean, Reb Yehuda Nasi presents two positions, which seems to be the same position, and yet all of a sudden, the first one only makes sense only if you hold like Reb Shimon, and the second one, if you hold like Reb Shimon, it should not be muktzah. So why is it muktzah? So evidently, we're missing something here, because that's not the way Reb Yehuda Nasi presents a mission. It has to be consistent with the same position. On that, the Gemara says, "Hocha ba'arzi v'ashuchi askino." We're not speaking about wood that's used for fuel. A woodshed that we speak about arzi, which is cedar wood, ashuchi, wood that's used for what? For building, and therefore, if it's building supplies, what is that? It's called muktzah kis. Something that's designated for a specific usage because of its value, and using for anything other than its value would be considered like a financial loss. Because of the nature of what it is, automatically it's negated for any other usage other than what it's meant to be used for. So even Reb Shimon concurs that that's muktzah, because that's considered, it's negated for any other usage unless he indicates that he will use that as fuel. Okay, Rashi, so what's ashuk arzi? In Odom Masiko said the Omdim Babinyan. Okay, the cedar wood is only designated as a building supply, therefore it's negated for any other usage other than that. Therefore, even if Shimon agrees, muktzah, saram kiss, we discussed. You have an ismol, you have a surgical scalpel, and you need, we say, a hammer. You could use a hammer to break nuts, to crack nuts. You could use a saw. You want to cut a hard piece of cheese, and you want to saw it to cut it in half. You're permitted. But to take a surgical scalpel that's used only for a surgical procedure, to use it to cut food, you're not permitted. Because of its level of value and delicateness, the person only uses that knife only for specific usages. And since that usage has no relevance to Shabbos or Yom Tiv, it's actually Netil's Neshama. It's for, let's say, for circumcision or for slaughtering. So a chalif, a slaughtering knife, on Shabbos would be muktzah, because a slaughtering that we'll call a chalif is only used for slaughtering. It's not used for anything else because of its delicateness. Okay? So therefore, we've reconciled the Mishnah. The first statement is Reb Shimon, and the second statement is Reb Shimon. Vafilu Reb Shimon Moder. Okay, even Reb Shimon concurs. So we've reconciled the two statements of the Mishnah, like Reb Shimon. The whole discussion began with the conclusion of the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, but if you have wood in a storage shed, you're not permitted to take that wood to use. So Rav Kalatsky said, what do we deduce from this statement? That if you have a woodshed and you didn't begin taking wood out of that shed, it's still stored in the back of the house, in the woodshed, that you can't, you're not permitted, it's muktzah. Although kid leads me to Reb Yom Mani Reb Yehuda, evidently the Mishnah is going on Reb Yehuda, the Islam muktzah, okay? Right? Seems to be that's a correct understanding. Aim a ratio. But let's understand the ratio of the Mishnah. Maschilin, Barevis Hateven. You're permitted to what? To begin taking from a pot of straw, the tchila, even though it wasn't initially utilized. So difference, it's a woodshed or it's a storage shed that you store straw. As a Reb Shimon, let's say Uksha. And that one answers, Hosa Betivna Saryo. It's talking about straw that became putrid. Yeah? Putrid straw. So if it's putrid, automatically the person has in mind, it's obvious it's for burning.
But it didn't become putrid. It was putrid.
It was putrid before Yom Tov. Before Yom Tov. 1 second. Samara says, Tivna Sario Chosel Latina. They take it and they use it as an ingredient when you make cement. So according to Reb Yehuda, since it hasn't been designated for fuel and its usage is for cement, you have to have that specific thing in mind. According to Reb Yehuda, and that was this like quotes it, that since this soured straw, the spoiled straw that started to decompose, it has thorns in it, that kind of straw you don't use for cement as an ingredient in cement. Therefore, it's obvious the equivalent, that straw is only used for what? Only for fuel. So although he didn't begin taking from there, it's so blatantly obvious in the person's mind, even though he didn't start taking from that pile, it's the equivalent of having in mind that that's going to be used for fuel. Because it has no other usage other than that. Because firstly, it's spoiled straw, soured straw, decomposing, plus it has thorns in it.
And therefore, Rav Yehuda would say you can use it?
Even Rav Yehuda agrees you can't use it.
Even though it was not designated.
No, it doesn't have to be designated. Since it has no other usage and no other value other than that, it's as if he thought specifically it's going to be used for fuel.
So then we can say that the ratio of the Mishnah is also Rav Yehuda then. That's what we're saying here.
According to the second version, even the ratio is going to Rav Yehuda.
But why couldn't we have part of our Mishnah is written so
it's written anonymously. You have two statements anonymously. It would say Reb Shimon says this, Reb Yehuda says, okay, fine.
Right.
One statement after another seems to be one's consistent with the other. How could it be consistent? If it's Reb Shimon, they both should be permitted. It's Reb Yehuda, they should both not be permitted. So evidently, we have to reconcile. We have to answer it somehow. So we have this version, and we have the second version.
But in an anonymous Mishnah, can we ever say that there are two different opinions in that anonymous Mishnah?
It's what we call it. We find it, but it's called the dochik. Sometimes the Mishnah, the more answers, tavra. You got to break the Mishnah in two. You got to break it. This is that. But that's called the dochik. Mm-hmm. So if we could reconcile it any other way, we bend over backwards to reconcile it. Rather than saying it's two separate opinions where they're both written anonymously. Okay. Jay, are you there? Okay. Jay's going to Hashkama. Hashkama now, you could get up 3 hours late and make Hashkama. Okay. Okay. Let's go further. Turn the page. Now, what's halacha if you have a wall made of straw or reeds, and you have a wall and the reeds that the wall is made of, it's interwoven in the wall, and you want a toothpick to clean your teeth. In the old days, they resort to these some things, and you break off a splinter off the wall or take out one of the reeds that are interwoven one, you can use that or you can use it, you're a fancy guy, you eat chop suey, or you eat sushi with one of these Chinese sticks. You do it on Shabbos or Yom Tov. Are you permitted to do it? Howard, what do you say? Howard's the posik in Teaneck. What do you say, Howard? If you take that stick out of that wall, eat sushi, right? It's gourmet sushi.
Well, you've always said you have to designate it, so I would say no, you can't do it.
Okay. Is it an Israbonis or Isa?
Well, muktzah is in the Rabbanim.
Okay. So the Gemara is going to say it's in this Doraisa. It's more than muktzah. It's called soser. If you have something which is built, it's considered attached to the ground, like a wall, and you remove something from it, that's called dismantling. Binyan and stira are not permitted on Shabbos and Yom Tov. You're not permitted. So because it's part of the wall, and you took part of the wall and removed it, you're in violation of soser. And the Gemara is going to ask the question. It says that you're not permitted to take wood out of a sukkah, we'll see from the wall, only something that's close to it, but not the wall itself. Because the wall itself is stira. The Gemara is going to discuss this in a moment. So it's more than muktzah. There's a discussion many years ago. I had a relation with Rav Steinman, and Rav Steinman used to have a chabura in Shabbos with a group of people. Select group, they were older people, older Avraham, let's say, they were already in their mid-30s, and they had a relationship with him. They weren't just young students. And he was learning Shabbos, and he's in Halacha, and he said, if you have a clock on the wall, and a wall clock, and you want to remove it, if you remove it, are you in violation of stira? What would you say? They asked me the question. The ones who attended the shiur, they asked me, what would you say? I was here in the United States. They were in Israel after they heard the shiur. So I said, what would Howard say? Go ahead, Howard.
The house is part of the earth. In other words, it's attached. So
it's not nailed on. It's on a hook. It's on a hook. Just slip it off the hook. Take the clock off the wall.
Wouldn't that be like taking a branch from a tree?
No, it's not kotzer. It's not kotzer. Kotzer means something that's growing. You take the source of growth.
Okay.
It's like a picture on the wall.
The question is, it stira or not stira? Okay, that's the question. That's the
Can
question.
you remove a picture on a wall? The same thing.
I made a differentiation. You have a picture on the wall. Same thing. It's on a hook. I said, if you remove a picture, that's stira. That's dismantling. Because the picture is the decor of the room. That's like if you paint a wall a certain color. We have a mural. It's an enhancement of the wall. So that's part of the wall. A picture, although it's on a hook, it's part of the wall. It's seen as part. It's called batil. It's batil to the wall. A clock is not batil to the wall. You only display a clock there, so you should know what the time is. That's why you display it at that point, at that height, on the hook. So the hook, it happens to be, if it's nailed onto the wall, it's stira, no question. It's not nailed on. It's just on the hook. You just have to slip it off. So because the clock is not bottled to the wall, it's only there displayed at that point to see it. You take it off, you're not in violation of it. It's 100% permitted. However, it's a picture or a painting, whatever it is, and you want to slip it off. Since that's part of the decor, that's the wall. It's bottled to the wall. Once it becomes bottled to the wall, anything you take off what's bottled, you're in violation of stira. The Gemara says in Sukkah that if you have the way we rule, that if the distance from the floor to the ceiling is more than 20 amos, the Sukkah is not valid. If the schach is more than 20 amos off the floor, so what do? So it says if you fill in the floor with gravel, with sand, and you raise the level of the floor, and now you measure from the surface of the gravel or the sand to the sukkah, it's less than 20 amos, it's a kosher sukkah, it's valid. But if not, it's not. What about if the person put the gravel in there, he needs a sukkah for one day, and the distance is more than 20 amos. He has a friend, says, I'd like to borrow your earth or your gravel for one day, because I have to fill in the sukkah. I'll return it to you tomorrow. Is it valid? Howard, what do you say? Howard's a person. Howard, what do you say?
I'd say it's it's like putting pillows in there. You know you're going to take the pillows out, so you have to give back.
But it says, I wanted to be part of the floor. Pillows, the verses, because nobody uses pillows as a filler.
Right.
Fill pillows. But here, sand normally use that as a filler.
But it's borrowed, and you have to give it back, so it would never not be permanent.
What about if I want to borrow it for 7 days? I'll give it back to you after Sukkot.
Well, it's something else.
I'm going to give it back. The answer is the sand or the gravel has to be bottled to the floor. You have to see it as part and parcel of the floor because you measure from the floor. Otherwise, you see it as sand sitting on the floor. Where's the floor? Under the gravel, under the sand. So where do you measure from? From not from the surface of the gravel, but rather from underneath. So if it's bottled to the floor, and you can leave it there all sukkahs, this is the sukkah, okay? So then you measure from the surface of the gravel, the sand, to the schach. But if it's only for a day, it's not botel, you're not in violation. You're not violating. It's not considered valid sukkah. So same idea. Well, let's say a person has sand, puts it there, puts it on the floor, and he wants it to be there for an hour. But then after an hour, he plans to remove it. Is that part of the floor? It's not part of the floor. Not part of the floor whatsoever. So if you take that, I'm talking about muktzah, you remove it. Is that called, are you in violation of shiur? You're dismantling the floor. You're not dismantling the floor. Because sand is normally, it's sitting on the floor. But if you put the sand there to be part of the floor, and now you remove the sand, now you're in violation of what? Of shiur. Because you're dismantling the floor. So let's talk. It's a question I expected. You can ask. Let's say I have a wall. I have a wall, and I have a hole in it. And I want to borrow reeds to weave into the wall because I need a wall for an hour. Right? And then during that hour, somebody takes that reed out of the wall. Is he in violation of shiur? Ernie, what would you say?
I would say yes, because during that hour, it's still
that is because that is the wall.
That is the wall, exactly.
Right? When you have a floor and you put sand on it, it's only the floor because it becomes part of the floor. Here, the reality, it is the wall. So once it's the wall, anything you take out of the wall, you're dismantling the wall. Right? Exactly what you're saying. The picture on the wall, even you display, you put it up an hour before Shabbos, and your wife comes home. She says, "What did you do? Looks terrible. Take it down." So you say, "Why don't you give yourself 24 hours? Maybe get used to it." I want it down immediately. I'm sorry, I can't take it down. It's zero.
Even if your wife insists you have to take it down, still can't.
It's the Raisa. It's a Torah violation.
I know.
You can't take it down. See, they say, you want to take the house down. You want to take the physical house down, or the our relation down. One or the other. You have your choice. Okay, that's the humor over here. But that's exactly what the Mishnah is going to discuss. The Gemara is going to discuss this because it says in the Mishnah. We're going to stop right after this. You're not permitted to take wood out of the sukkah. That's what's interwoven. Avol minasomach lo. Avol elo minasom. But what's that? It's not fully interwoven. It's jutting out of the wall. So the Gemara asks, if it's still attached to some degree to the wall, right? So if that's the case, it's botel. Ma'ishlam minasukah delo because sosa olo. Why, if it's an integral part of the wall, you take it out because you so said oil. It's dismantling the oil. Once you see it as part of the wall, even though it's not fully interwoven, but it's also sterile. Rav Yehuda, my somach would find it. It's not protruding from the wall. You have wood next to the wall, but it's not the wall. It's not attached to the wall. So there, it's not. You're permitted to take that wood and use it for fuel. So we'll see. We'll continue. It's Hashem. Monday we'll continue from this. We'll start the Mishnah over again. Okay, we're not going to do Rambam right now. People are going to daven. Okay.
Rabbi Daf Yomi 9:50.
9:50 because today's Rosh Chodesh. It's longer davening. Okay. 40 minutes, we'll finish the plot. So it goes quick. Yes, Ernie.
No, good Shabbos. Good Rosh
Chodesh. Good Chodesh, everybody. Mark.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Chodesh Tov. Ephraim. And be well. Everybody be well.
Good Shabbos. Chodesh Tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Take care. Bye.